Every night as I close the shades to my bedroom window, I look towards the New York skyline and say, "Good night, New York, I love you." It started out as a funny bit and then a nightly gratitude ritual, but now it's a new podcast about places we love. So this podcast isn't really about New York, it's about any place we love and why we love it. Because just like finding a soulmate, our relationship with places can feel just as powerful. In each new episode, I'll ask my guest, tell me about a place you love. We'll explore what drives that connection with these places, and we'll also explore the relationship between love, places, and connection with community. This is Good Night, New York, I Love You. Hello, and welcome to Good Night, New York, I Love You. I'm your host, Jane Marie. Do you have a sacred, special place where you feel completely at home? Today's guest, Lucy Baird, shares with us her own sacred space, her apartment. Lucy is an interior designer, a creative consultant, and a writer based here in New York City. She's also the founder of Studio LGB, a place where she blends sophisticated design with functional, modern interiors. In today's episode, she'll share more with us about her lifelong love of beautiful spaces and things. We'll also explore what makes a home so special. And Lucy shares her own tips on how to create that sacred, safe place for yourself, no matter where you live or what the physical space looks like. Let's dive right in. Lucy, welcome to Good Night, New York, I Love You. It is a pleasure to have you as a guest.
Hi, JM. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I remember when I met you being in a certain phase of life where I was starting to explore my creativity. I found out that you had a Substack, and I was so inspired by your Substack, Lucy Curates, and getting all of these visual entries. I loved that vision, and it inspired me to come up with what I wanted to share with the world.
Oh, well, that means a lot to me. I'm just trying to think when exactly we met, but there's always been a strong connection. We're both really creative. I think we both pushing boundaries and doing interesting things and traveling. So it was just a really natural friendship, and you really inspire me too. All these fun, interesting things that you do. It's a little love fest.
Exactly. I think both of us being creative and wanting to find ways to share that with the world really brought us together and helped us connect on a personal level rather than just having mutual friends. Let's jump right in and tell me about a place that you love.
Probably the place I love most in the world is my apartment. I know that it sounds like so simple and almost silly, but the sense of belonging that I have to my home is really core to my experience as a human being. And because I have this strong, beautiful connection to it, I feel like I'm allowed to go elsewhere in the world and appreciate beauty in the unknown. But it's mine and I love it and I return to it. I just can't imagine not coming home to home. So it's my favorite place in the world.
I love that. So far on the pod, we've explored cities or countries, more specific places in terms of a map, right? But what you're talking about as a place that's significant for you is a different definition. It's your home.
I feel so connected to my home. Well, I am an interior designer. That is what I do. I have my own boutique residential firm and I operate out of New York here, and I work in the tri-state area and in DC and Detroit. So my work brings me to really cool places. As an interior designer, I feel like the home is an expression of the self. I love my job that I'm able to guide people and to understand people's wants and needs, like functionally, and then also their personality and what they respond to in terms of how they live, where they live, and with what they live with. Art, texture, pattern, objects, all these things that people gravitate towards, and then I get to help put it all together is really special. My definition of home, or why my home is so important to me, is the ritual of returning to a place that feels like it's mine and where I can take my mask off. And especially living in a place like New York, where you're sharing so much with so many people constantly. And I have a very full social life and I love being out and about, but I get to recharge at home. So for me, it's a very sacred place. As an interior designer, I'm just so interested in what makes it feel like a sense of place to me. Is it a collection of things, or is it just the space itself? These are all themes that I like exploring and that I keep returning to because it truly is my favorite place on earth.
It's so important for us to have a place where we feel safe enough to take our mask off. That's the phrase you used, that you can
Yes.
take your mask off at home.
Mhm.
And that's safety, right? We can create this sense of space in lots of different places, but you're talking about our home as being a place where we can create that. Tell me a little bit more about how you've created that sense of safety in your own apartment.
I think it has to do with what I like to collect. Like, I love all my things, and I'm very specific about my things. I almost have a borderline capsule wardrobe. I don't love having two of anything. Everything is very curated and everything is very special to me. A quote that really resonates with me, William Morris was a British designer, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says something like, have nothing in your house that isn't functional and beautiful. And I've really adopted that as my ethos. I love art and I love beautiful things that I've collected on journeys and from experiences. And it's not the actual materialism. I have always struggled with that. Why do I love things so much? But they're special things. They're my things. They're things that give meaning to my life. Anything else I don't really have in my apartment. People will walk in and they'll just be like, wow, everything feels so specific. And I'm like, yes, I've created my own little world where I literally love everything in my apartment. And it's nothing I don't need and everything I do.
It's intentional.
Yes.
Everything is intentional,
Mhm.
whether that intention is function or beauty.
Yep.
Either one is valid.
Yep. And if it doesn't fall into one of those categories, I would love them to fall into both. That's the best. That's sublime. But if it's not one of those, then it's not here.
I am also the kind of person that is very attached to things.
Mhm.
And I struggle with it too because my parents are boomers and their parents also had a lot of things.
Mhm.
And we're seeing a lot about boomers passing away. And now
Yes.
all of these estate sales are relinquishing all
Yes.
of their belongings. But not every generation has adopted that same mentality of the same appreciation of things.
No, I know.
I actually had an interesting conversation with someone a few months ago about maximalism versus minimalism. He told me that when he comes into my apartment, it stresses him out because there's stuff everywhere. And the thing is I don't view it that way at all.
Right?
I love the things. I love the books. I love the pictures. I love my plants. I love collecting art, photographs. I love having pretty things, knickknacks around the house. And I feel like as a millennial, I'm in the minority with that because I love having a nice dish out. But
Love.
it's functional. It's a purse bowl, you know?
Right. I know. And I think going through, and I love hearing you talk about your apartment and your thing. There are so many ways to live, and there are so many ways to love things. It's such an expression of who we are as people and how different we are and what makes us tick and what's going on the inside, I think is definitely represented in what's going on the outside. And there's no exact way to do it. So it is really fun. That's why I think it's such an intimate space, the home. And of course, I love being in other people's places because I really notice things, the way they live or what they love, and it tells me a lot about them. So it's really being an observer. And it's not about taste or in a judgmental way at all. I think it's beautiful how different people live, but it's just something that I'm very attuned to just because I love my space and I'm so sensitive to surroundings.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about how the home reflects who you are as an individual. You already talked about feeling like you can take your mask off and be who you really are when you're at home because it's this safe space. Let's talk a little bit more about how your space reflects these characteristics in you. What would you say that your space reflects about you? What characteristics does it bring out in you?
It's very particular. So everything has its place, and I'm kind of a freak of nature and I'm very self-aware of it. Everything makes sense here, and it's how I want it.
And it's your space.
Yes, it gives me purpose and it gives me energy and it gives me comfort in those things that it's mine. I've always been like this. I've always been a homebody, and I remember I shared a room with my sister growing up, and when I got my own room, it was the biggest moment of my life. So, it's always been really important to me, it's always really resonated in me. I've always decorated my dorm rooms and, like, the
Mhm.
whole thing. So, it's nothing new, but now as an adult, and the fact that I'm so attached to the place where I live and work, just really special. I'm really grateful for it. I'm a very intentional, particular person, and I think you get that sense when you walk in here.
You're creating that sense of safety for yourself by knowing, okay, I like for things to be in a particular order. I like for my space to reflect that. And that makes me feel safe and makes me feel like I can relax. And I think that's the important distinction you're making is it that is a personal decision. I
Mhm.
can make my space reflect what my values are.
Yes. Truly, I'm very much a homebody, but when I travel or I do something uncomfortable or I go to another beautiful place that I've had the opportunity to visit and experience, knowing I have this place to come home to, it allows me to be uncomfortable and to experience new things because I have this place where I know that is waiting for me. It's like a safety net. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do this weird, cool thing where I'm going to be uncomfortable and have never been. And it's going to be a whole new way of life. And the colors are going to be different and the textures are going to be different. But like I get to do that and be comfortable and be excited because I know that I get to go home. I wrestled a lot with anxious attachment growing up. It was very hard for me to go to camp or to leave my home. Yeah, it's just interesting how it kind of manifests itself as an adult. But having such a strong sense of place gives me a strong sense of self, and then I'm able to go out in the world.
Oh, that's a really beautiful idea that we can leverage places as a spring pad, a launch pad to try something new, to take a risk, to be uncomfortable. If we know that we have a place to come back to that is safe, where we feel like we can take our mask off,
Mhm.
then we know, okay, I can take this risk. I can travel to this place and do something different because at the end of the day, I know I'm coming back to that safe place. And I
Exactly.
think we can apply that to anything. Maybe it's not your own apartment. Maybe you have roommates. Maybe you share an apartment with or a house with your partner, and it's not exactly the way you would do it if you were alone. The idea is having some kind of space that's available to you to create that sense of safety and comfort
Mhm.
as a place of relief.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Just some room or in some capacity, a place where you can be yourself.
Being yourself is such a big theme about this podcast because I think it's really interesting that places have that power to
Mhm.
help us connect with our authentic selves.
Yes.
In some places, we might not feel that freedom, but to have the freedom to truly be ourselves is so empowering. It's so refreshing.
Yeah. It's a gift, truly.
It's a gift. We're women in our mid 30s. And
Mhm.
so I think about being the first woman in the long line of women who came before me to be this age, living by myself in a big city, and to have not only the finances to do that, the independence set up with my job, the courage to do that. All of these things are set in place for me that maybe other women in my family would have loved, and they
Mhm.
didn't get that opportunity.
Yeah, it's almost radical, right? The idea
Yeah.
that we're able to be untethered and to have our own hyper independent lives. Yeah, I think I've grown a lot in
Yes.
like this apartment, having been by myself. And I think it's nurtured that growth. So I really talk about my home and my apartment as if it's a person or a thing. I'm so connected to it. These walls have been like this little cocoon where I genuinely feel like I've grown into myself and my true self, which is what you were talking about earlier. That is a really interesting thought. Being young professional women, it's more of a radical path, but a lot has happened in that solitude and in that independence.
Do you have anything else you want to share about the person that you've become while you've lived in this apartment?
Yeah, I think I've become so much closer to my truer self. The word that just comes to mind is powerful. I mean, mature, yes, sure. But yeah, I feel better about myself. I feel confident. I feel excited about my life. I feel proud of the professional things I've accomplished. I've become the Hulk here. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm like, yes, I am Lucy. Hear me roar. And I really owe that to this incredibly safe space that I built for myself.
It's not an easy feat to become so confident in yourself that you feel powerful, that you feel like you can take anything on, that you feel like you can be your authentic self.
So it took a while to get here.
It
Like,
does take a while, and it's not a linear path all the time.
no.
A lot of times it's iterative, right? What has gone into you curating a
Mhm.
space where you could become more authentically yourself, where you could become more confident and more powerful?
I think just creating a comfortable, beautiful environment and doing that slowly and thoughtfully, and by collecting beautiful things that I've found at thrift stores and on my vintage adventures, and just having it grow with me. And I also am very good about thinning things out. If it doesn't serve me anymore, I'm going to Housing Works, I'm going to the Salvation Army. And I love doing that because I do think things have energy. So if it's not serving me, then it can go on to serve someone else. I keep her very tight and I keep her very clean and just so, if that makes any sense. And it's the just so that, how do I explain this? But the biggest compliment is when someone walks in and they're like, oh, yeah, this feels like you. And I'm like,
Mm.
yes, yes, it does. And that's the biggest compliment anyone can give me.
What advice would you give to somebody who doesn't feel like they have a space in their home that is
Mhm.
sacred, where they can really be themselves?
Mhm.
How do we begin to create and curate that? If I don't have the access to money to
Mhm.
pay for new things or to pay for a designer to come in, or I can't upgrade my space to be bigger, again, maybe the scenario where I live with roommates or I have a family
Mhm.
and we're limited on maybe the space itself or how many people are there.
Mhm.
What can I do to start creating a safe place for myself in my home?
That's a really good question. And I think there's like a lot of lightweight ways that, as you said, like don't involve any cost. I really do believe, obviously, in your apartment, whether you share it with someone or you don't, that there are things that you really love. So whether that's a piece of art, whether that's a small piece of furniture, whether it's your favorite comfortable chair. And why not, if you love a chair and you love reading in it, but it's in a dark corner in the apartment, why not switching up the layout and seeing if you can get near a window? Or if there's a piece of art and it's in the back of your dresser and it's leaning, like, why don't we hang that in some place that you see it every day? Or if it feels dark and you feel like you don't have enough light, like, let's put a mirror strategically somewhere so you have more light that washes in. Or, if you really respond to rituals within the home, let's say, like, I have a candle that I love and I always burn it. And I really burn it when I want to relax. So I don't let myself have it when I'm working, not because I want to not give myself the pleasure, but it changes the environment for me, especially because I work in my home. You could have little rituals, like maybe it's lighting a candle as dusk happens and it becomes a safer space.
It sounds like what you're saying is that having these rituals offer as a signal to your brain that you can relax.
Yes. And I think something like that, I think of as part of my apartment, right? It's not just the like physical walls, but it's what I do in it. Maybe that's something that you can have that's a little pleasure every day. Or just getting new linens. That's always such a treat. I think just rearranging, having fun, seeing what's working. I rearrange my stuff all the time. And that in and of itself livens things up and allows me to have new experiences with my things and then see if it's like additive to my home.
As you were talking, I was jotting down a list, no matter what your limitations are.
Mhm.
If you want to create in your space a sense of safety, a place where you can relax in your own home to
Mhm.
create this sacred space, here are some of the things that Lucy suggests. The first thing that you talked about was one, to think about the things that you love.
Mhm.
So taking stock of what do I already have that I love?
Yeah, there are things that spark joy. It's like the Marie Kondo. What do you see in your apartment that you're like, oh, I love this? Is it your favorite mug? I mean, I'm touched to mugs, like a photograph that you could put in a new frame. Like, just see what you're attracting to. And then after you're like, oh, I love this. Like, this should be nearby. I should be seeing this. I should be experiencing this more in my home. And maybe it's moving it again from the back of your dresser where your makeup's in front of it all, somewhere just a little bit more visible on a side table or hanging up. A lot of people have fabulous art and it's on a bookshelf or they don't have the time or whatever. Let's get art on the wall. Like that's
Let's
exciting.
get it up.
Yeah.
It's meant to be enjoyed.
You have photographs, from like fun trip. Like let's put them in frames. They're little things like
I got a digital frame a few years ago
Laura.
for my birthday because my sister, she has a family and kids, and it was great for the kids. I'm a single mid-30s woman living by myself, and I was like, I want that. And I felt a little bit like an old person, but it brings me joy.
They're
The little slideshow of all my photos brings me joy.
I'm telling you, I actually want one. My parents have one and it's like great for families to upload and then you're like, "Oh, that trip was so fun," or "That one dinner was so fun," or the pictures of the cherry blossom from April, like, "Oh, that was so beautiful. That was such a fun day." And now it's here in my home.
So, the first thing that we're doing to create a sacred space in our home is we're thinking about what already exists here that I love.
Mhm.
And second thing that you're mentioning here is bringing that thing to the forefront and finding a way to get it in your everyday mix. Maybe that's switching up the layout. Maybe it's by displaying something. Maybe you were talking about playing around with light, shifting around the things you already have to
Mhm.
see if it brings you joy.
Yes.
The next thing you talked about were your values as a person. What are the things that you value? You've mentioned, I value order, I value functionality, and I value beauty.
Mm.
So, knowing that those are your three top values, now you can curate your space to reflect your values.
Yes. And I love how you just pick like 3 adjectives. That's exactly how I describe mine. Someone could pick their 3 and maybe it's colorful, maybe it's loud and like quirky disorder, whatever it is. Like you follow those as kind of like people do that a lot with fashion actually, and it's very cool exercise. Like pick your 3 words and then dress to that. So why not pick your 3 words for your home and then you can eliminate things that don't serve that, celebrate what is already there. And then if you're thinking about adding to it, come back to those 3 words. And I think that's a really cool exercise to do for the home as well.
It's a great exercise. No matter what place you're in with your
Mhm.
own home, you can still apply this. You can think through these are my top 3 values, or these are the 3 adjectives I would choose, or top 5, whatever you want to use.
Yeah.
And you can identify what you already have. Like you said, I can get rid of the things that don't align. And then maybe I can make a wish list of next time I'm at a thrift store, an estate sale. I know I'm looking for something along the lines of this thing. And oh, now I'm looking for it and now I found it.
I don't know, they gravitate towards it. Okay, JM, what
Yeah.
are your 3 for your home? How would you
Ooh,
just
what are my 3 things?
your values, adjectives, like your space?
Okay, so one, I'm going to give phrases.
Okay.
Okay, so number one important for me is that I can rest in my home. I want to be able to rest and relax and need to be able to recharge when I'm at home.
Mm.
I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I love that, but I also need, like you're talking about, the sense of safety. I also really value my relationships with other people and having people over. It's
Mhm.
so important to me to have a space where other people can easily come in
Really
and come
beautiful.
over for dinner, come over to hang out on the couch, host a little party, whatever it is. And I've really centered how I set up my space to make it an inviting place for people. You were saying, I love when people come in and say, "Oh, it looks like you." When people come in and say, "Oh, it's so cozy. Oh, it's so homey." That makes me really happy because that's what I want. I want
Mhm.
people to feel comfortable in my space in the same way I feel comfortable here.
That's really beautiful.
I think my last adjective is
Mhm.
eclectic. Maybe I'll add 2 more.
Okay.
Nostalgic and
Love it.
eclectic,
Okay. Love.
because I am attached to my things because they hold meaning. You were talking about collecting things as you travel.
Yes.
Almost every single thing in my apartment holds some kind of meaning for me.
Yeah.
I had a friend, she would say, "You always have a story behind anything that I compliment you on." But it's so true because everything has some kind of meaning. Like, "Oh, I got that from so and so," or "Oh, when I was traveling there, I got that," or "Oh, that was my grandma's." And that's really special to me. But because I'm collecting these things, my space is really eclectic. I don't feel like I can be defined by one thing. So you're going to see lots of expressions of my personality through the things in my apartment and how it's set up.
I love that. And I think another piece of advice that I would have is it's patience and it's collecting through many seasons of life. But what I suggest is that just start with what you need and then slowly collect, thoughtfully build. And these things are going to serve you better than buying the set off of anywhere or buying things to have things. Take time and really have fun going to vintage stores and thrift stores. You never know what you're going to find. Or Facebook Marketplace. There's so many fantastic platforms and places to find beautiful things at really good prices that also have, as you said, have stories. Just taking the time to start with what you need, get rid of what you don't, and then build from there. And then I think suddenly it's really going to feel like yours, no matter if you share it or you don't.
When I moved into my apartment on my own, my first apartment by myself, a friend of mine who already owns her home and it's a 3 bedroom and she's had this time to create this beautiful space and her home really is beautiful. I remember she gave me this advice, exactly what you're saying, that you don't have to accomplish it all right now. You
No,
don't have to have it all decorated by the end of the month.
no.
It's fine, you
Mhm.
know? It's funny because now I moved into this apartment in 2020 and I found on my camera roll, my phone will bring back
Yes.
old photos, a photo from 2021 of my window, like the view from my living room. And I looked at that photo from 2021. I think it was 2025 when I was looking at this. And I remember thinking, wow, my space has transformed so much. And it happened over time, not even to where I was like, I'm going to do this big overhaul and decorate everything. But little by little, I've made changes. And this person gave me this. And I bought this. And
I
now
put
I have
curtains up
this.
finally and like, yeah, I just did like little things.
Now I have plans. It feels more like a home because it's stood the test of time. I've taken the time to make it into something really beautiful. So I think patience is part of this process.
Yeah. And have it grow with you.
Yeah, I love that. Let it be a reflection of your journey.
Yes.
The last thing you talked about when we were thinking about what advice would you give to somebody who wants to create a safe space, a sacred space in their
Mhm.
home, was this idea of creating at home rituals.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
love this idea. You gave a few examples. You talked about after work, you work from home, you light this candle, and it signals to
Mhm.
you that now it's time to shift into relaxation mode or whatever it is. I love this idea and I want to spend some time talking about it. If somebody doesn't know how to get started with at home rituals, do you have any advice for them?
At home rituals, I would find with your own space or your shared space, there's obviously we're so funny. We're creatures of habit. I think we always find ourselves sitting in the same place, which is so interesting. Whether there's 4 chairs at a table, you're always sitting in the same one. Or if you're reading on the sofa, you're always in the same spot. So I think acknowledging that these are little rituals that are special to you and your space, even though they're so simple, recognizing that I think is really interesting. Candles in your space are a really powerful way. I know that sounds basic, but for me, it's quite powerful. Scent in my spot. Maybe it's at a certain time at night that certain lights go off. I'm very sensitive to light. So maybe you turn off overhead lights and we invest or we find a cute little table light somewhere and suddenly that becomes your nighttime routine, right? It's 9:30 and you set the mood, but for yourself and your own space. I think that's a really powerful way. What else?
Oh, I've got one.
Okay, what do you got?
I have a chair that I
Okay.
sit in every morning
So
to drink my coffee and write my morning pages. It's by the window. And it's my special spot. When I don't make time during the morning to have that ritual, I feel it the rest of the day. It's a
yeah.
signal to my brain to get started in a certain kind of way that's less frantic and less frenzied and more in touch with my emotions. And it's such a simple thing. But placing this chair by the window and having it be the spot, I actually got the idea from my uncle. He used to talk about, oh, that's the chair I always drink my coffee in. And I
Mm,
started thinking about it. I don't have that. I'm always running around in the morning. I want to have a space like that. So I think we can also get that inspiration from other people when we hear them talk about rituals that they have that work for them. We can
Yeah,
try
and
it.
I love the term like special spot because I think people already have special spots in their apartment, right?
Yeah.
Recognize it as a special spot and then how can we make it more special and can you return to it at certain types of days or when you're feeling a certain kind of way and it'll really start to feel sacred, but they already exist. It's already happening. So it's just this awareness.
We could talk forever about rituals, but I'm going to recap one more time. If you're creating your sacred space at home, you can think about what you already love. You can switch up the layout. You can think about what your values are and how your space reflects that. And then you can create at home rituals to enrich your experience while you're at home and really signal to your brain that it is a special place to be.
Yes. I love that. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about reciprocity.
Okay.
When I created this podcast, I was thinking about soulmate relationships.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about how when we talk about soulmates, we talk about giving and receiving a special kind of love and care. Typically, we think about people, but I
Mhm.
think it applies to places. And so I always ask my guests, what do you think you're giving to this place and what are you receiving? You already mentioned a lot about what you're receiving. Can you talk a little bit more about how you show care to your apartment?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea of soulmates and all that you've like talked and written about it. It's like so beautiful and powerful. I'm so happy that you're able to acknowledge and make the jump that it's not only people, but it's also places and things. I really genuinely believe that. I believe things have energy and there's an exchange with Mother Nature and even with walls and spaces. So I live in a pre-war building in New York City and my apartment is unrenovated, meaning that it still has some of the original tile, it has the original cast iron tub, it has the original moldings, it has some of the original hardware on the interior closet doors, and I love them. And unfortunately, it was bought by, a real estate company and slowly they're being renovated and they're ripping out these beautiful details from 1929, and it makes me sick to my stomach. So I feel like I'm preserving her. And I always joke, I'm like, if they're going to take out the cast iron tub, they're going to take me in it. Like, I just want her to remain her because she's so perfect the way she is. So I feel like this responsibility, obviously, I'm going to leave her at some point. I mean, maybe I'll die in 70, who knows? I'm continuing to give her life and I'm keeping her clean and tidy and addressing her needs and loving loving her bones because I'm like I don't know how much time she has left. So it's really just like appreciating her and just letting
Yeah.
beautiful and that I wish nothing would ever happen to them because she's perfect the way she is.
What you're talking about is a connectedness to
Mhm.
this place. I agree that I think things and places have energy and we exchange that energy all the time when we walk into a place. I mean, think about it. When you walk into a certain place, you can feel the energy of the room.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's because of the people there, but sometimes it's because of the way the room is set up, the space is physically set up. Sometimes it's because of what has been going on in that place. One way that we can take care of our homes and establish the sacredness that you're talking about is recognizing that connectedness we have to the energy of the place
Mhm.
and how we contribute to it.
Yeah, it really is true. I have such a connection to the space. And I was even like talking to my friend last week and she's moving and I was like, "Oh, how's the move go? Whatever." And she's like, "Oh, it's great." She's really excited about her new spot. But she's like, when you're moving and you just break down and cry for no reason. I was born with a hyper awareness of a sense of place. But even people who maybe don't have that awareness that I do, I think it's deep in us, the sense of where we belong, the sense of home. And when you move, it's really kind of a shock to the system because it becomes part of who we are, where we physically are. So it was just an interesting exercise when I was like, yeah, you do suddenly break down and cry when you're moving and you have no idea why.
I heard somebody say once that when you're going through a move, that you're actually going through the stages of grief
Mm,
because you're closing a chapter
mhm.
no matter how big or small that chapter was,
Whether it
you're
was good or
closing
bad. Like, who like,
whether it was good or bad, there's
it's
still grief
still
that comes
mhm,
with ending something and starting something new.
absolutely. And there's beauty in that, and it's the circle of life, and it's all part of it, but I think you're absolutely right. It's grief.
My parents moved out of my childhood home back in
Mm,
2022.
mm.
And when I say my childhood home, I mean the only home we lived in since they were pregnant with my oldest sister. That's where we lived my whole life. And so then as a 30 something, they decide that they're going to move. And I was devastated.
Yeah,
My
it's gonna
parents were ready. They were ready to close out that chapter and start a new chapter.
and how many years had it you, like, actually not lived there?
Right. I had lived there for, I guess, officially 18 years. Then I came and went in and out of that house for the rest of the time through college, even through my jobs. I live far away from my parents. So when I come home, I'm staying in the house with them. And so it was very much a part of my experience with my family. And that's how I was thinking about it. And so when they moved into this beautiful house. It's amazing. It's such a beautiful space. And I've really grown to appreciate it and love it. But the first time that I came home after they moved, I remember every single time that I would turn onto their street that I would start crying because it was so hard to let go of that
Yes.
place as a holder for all of those memories and those relationships and all of the emotions that I associated with it,
Yeah, and the connection to it.
the connectedness.
Yeah, you were still very much connected to it, and then you just felt like it was severed, but it's not. You can still return, and, it's like, oh, again, what we just talked about chapters, right? Mourning places where you've grown, like, we coming back to when I was talking about that, I felt like I've really grown in this place, but I think it's a similar experience that maybe people have in all different seasons of life, but I totally relate, and I think a lot of people do as well.
I think it's such a normal experience to mourn a place when you have to leave it behind.
Mhm.
And maybe you won't have the opportunity to go back. When we talk about cities or countries, we most often do have the opportunity to go back to those places. But if it's a house or an apartment, we might not ever get that chance to step foot in that place again. But I had a really interesting experience with my uncle's apartment in New York, where I got to experience him living there and our time together there. I actually ended up going back to the space after he had moved. And I had a really important realization when I went back to the apartment. I was very emotional before he moved. And I remember thinking, I love this apartment. I loved that I got to come here as another safe space in the city,
Mhm.
that we had all these dinners here. We had so many great memories. It was a place of safety for me, really. And when I went back into the apartment and he was no longer there, I remember realizing it's not the apartment. Like the apartment was a holder
Mhm.
for all of the emotion and the connectedness and the memories and the relationship that we built together while we lived in the city at the same time.
And you're able to say, wow, it served
It served its purpose.
you have gratitude for it, and then you're able to say, "Okay, now you can do that for someone else."
Absolutely. And it's the same with my childhood home.
Mhm.
I had a hard time letting go because I thought of that place as the connection to my family and my childhood and all of that nostalgia. But actually, I still have all of those things inside me. I still have that connection. It's
Yeah.
not gone just because I don't have access to that specific house anymore or that specific apartment in my uncle's case.
And I bet that your childhood home was sad to see you and your family go, but now it's gonna have the opportunity to do that for another family. I know it sounds woo-woo, but I really think there's this exchange, and I think that
Mhm.
places know that too.
I could talk about this forever, like the memories that places hold and what does that mean to us? And is it really about the place or is it about the people or is it about the experiences?
And relish in the bittersweetness of it, that this place could have been so special, and to lose it makes you feel a certain way, but it's just evidence of how much it meant to you. I've been thinking a lot about this feeling of bittersweet,
Mm.
and I think it's one of the most beautiful human emotions because you're able to feel multiple contradictory things at once, and it's a beautiful thing.
It absolutely is. I love thinking about places as a vessel for helping us explore those emotions.
Yeah, me too.
One thing we're talking about is how when we leave a place behind,
Mhm.
it changes our relationship to that place. and doesn't disrupt the memories we have, doesn't disrupt who we became because of that place,
Mhm.
but it changes, right? An example I'm thinking about is the two places that I've lived in New York. I've lived in New York over 10 years now. And for the first 5 years, I lived in Harlem. I was a student at Columbia. And so I lived nearby. And I had an amazing apartment up there. I had a great roommate. We were right across from Riverside Park. It was a beautiful place and a beautiful neighborhood to live in. And then in 2020, I moved to Williamsburg. I never would have chosen Williamsburg as the place where I settled down or got an apartment or lived, but it happened that way. And I love it. Like, I've had so much fun putting down roots in this community too. And so people ask me all the time, "Oh, which one do you love more? Do you miss your old apartment?" And the answer is yes, and of course, I miss my old apartment. I miss aspects of that neighborhood, but really think more about moving as a different chapter of my life.
Mm.
And it's almost like apples to oranges. I didn't necessarily fall out of love with the other place, but I acknowledged that it was there for a certain season of my life. And now I'm in a very different season, and you almost can't compare them.
I know, isn't it strange? Like, I feel that way too. I think it's interesting because if you were to pluck me out of this apartment right now, I would be devastated beyond belief. But is that just because the chapter here isn't over?
Mm.
No. So I think there will be a time when I'm going to leave and it's going to be bittersweet like it is when I left my 300 square foot apartment in Soho and my little studio in the West Village. I've really romanticized my place now. I blame it on the southern facing light, but maybe the chapter's not over here. I wonder if you
That's a beautiful way of looking at it.
feel similar. If you're like, oh my God, if I had to move tomorrow, I'd be devastated. Or you're like, I think it's dwindling. And, I could see myself moving somewhere else in Brooklyn or like where you are.
I tend to overthink and worry about the future. And it's come up for me with my current apartment where I am now, too. There's this question of, is the development going to go up across the street? Is it going to change my view, the access
Mhm.
I have to the light that comes in? It'll completely change my living experience here. And it makes me feel anxious because I love where I am so much right now. And I love this apartment. And one of my friends reminded me exactly what you're saying. You might be in a totally different place in your life by the
Mhm.
time that that happens. And so there's no use worrying about it now because if that time comes, you're going to figure it out. That's so true about the home that we live in. It might not be our forever home, physical home, but it is for right now. And we don't have to worry about it changing prematurely because it's all about the chapter that we're in and the journey that we're on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good way to phrase it.
Lucy, it's been amazing talking about all these different aspects of your home and how it can be sacred and what it means to us as individuals and our emotions and our memories. But I always end with a question asking people what their ideal day is in the place that they love. So, what is your ideal day in your apartment?
I have gotten 8.5 hours of uninterrupted sleep in clean sheets. I had just washed them the day before. They are clean, and I wake up, I'm rested. It's a Saturday for sure. And I make my coffee and I do a little reading in bed. We're doing Wall Street Journal on my phone, but then we're kind of switching out between that and the book that I'm reading. And I do that for a little bit. Then I kind of putter around my apartment and I look out the view. I look over a park. So there's lots of things going on. There's a t-ball game. There's a father and son playing basketball. And I just look and I admire them for a little bit. And then I'm like, it's time to go outside and visit my neighborhood. So I walk around New York and I go to an art museum and then I get a great lunch somewhere fantastic. Name your food type. Everywhere is good in New York. And then I meet with friends. Maybe I go to Brooklyn and I meet at a beautiful park and we hang out. And then I'm like, "Oh, I get to return to my apartment." And I make a yummy, healthy meal after stopping at the Union Square Farmers Market, and I dim all the lights, I light my candle, I read a little bit more, I watch a true crime, and then I go to bed.
Sounds like an amazing day. You really had me from the moment you said 8.5 hours of uninterrupted sleep.
Nothing's better.
The dream,
The
the
dream.
dream to have that every day.
Mhm.
And the clean sheets is a really important detail.
like, there's nothing better than, like, getting into clean sheets and then waking up in clean sheets, and you're like,
Mm.
"Oh, the little joys."
And I love that your ideal day reflects what you were talking about earlier, going out into the world and having a safe place to return to. In your ideal day, you go out into the world, you're not in your apartment the whole day,
Mhm.
you're still experiencing things outside of that space, but you have a place to come home to that's safe, that's sacred, where you can take your mask off. That's
Yeah,
a really beautiful feeling.
it really is, it's the best, and I get to plug myself in. I'm literally like, I have to charge myself when I get here.
Mhm.
Recharging that. I just put the batteries up.
Yeah. Put me on the charger.
Literally.
One of the reasons I wanted to have you on the pod is because you sent out these adorable keychains as part of merch for your business. So it has your studio name on the front, and on the back it says, "There's no place like home."
Mhm.
And I love this because I feel it.
Mm.
There is no place like home, and it speaks to what you help your clients create and exactly what you're talking about. Do you want to add anything about this phrase, "There's no place like home," and what that means to you?
I love having a place where I can return to that has just given me such a strong sense of self, and I hope through my work that I'm able to advise, provide, design spaces for other people where they're so eager and excited to get home. And I think that is a gift, and
Mm.
I am so grateful I have a home and that I get to decorate it, but that truly that I just have a home. And I don't take that for granted. Just ethos that I live by and what a joy it is to be so comfortable in a space.
100%. Thank you, Lucy, for
Oh,
coming and sharing about your
I had
connection
the
to
best
your
time. I
home.
could talk
Me
about homes and memories and nostalgia with you for hours.
and curating a space that makes you feel safe.
Yes.
What a beautiful thing to learn and to take away from today's episode.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much, Lucy. I'm going to put Lucy's information in the show notes so you can find her.
Okay. Thank you. I'd love to connect.
Didn't you love hearing from Lucy and why home is such a special, sacred place to her? There were so many nuggets of wisdom in today's conversation about how we can intentionally create these safe spaces for us to really be ourselves. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. If you want to hear more from Lucy, she is at Lucy Curates on both Instagram and Substack. And you can also find more about her work at studiolgb.com. And remember, every episode, I'll invite a new guest to sit down with me and tell me about a place that they love. Tune in next time on Good Night, New York. I love you.